Good afternoon, Zoomer Nation, Zinger Nation. That is Zoomer Nation. Yeah, that's like my daughter. She's part of Zoomer Nation. If you are even from Zoomer Nation, welcome, Zinger Nation. This is Justin Roberti, again, as always, here with Web3 Anarchy. Very excited today to be talking to Brendan Rochon from Covalent, which is they have recently come out with a research paper to summarize sort of the direction and trajectory of play to earn gaming and of GameFi in general. Thank you so much for joining us all, and please ring in with any questions that you might have. Of course, now is also a decent time to get in on the ground floor of liking and subscribing and going ahead and following me on Twitter if you like at sensible.com. I'm a seriously OG Twitter user, so I have a very simple Twitter handle, Sensible. Go ahead and follow me to find out more about what the show's going to do. But I am excited to talk a little bit more about GameFi. I'm dying to know not only, will this continue? Will the idea of being able to create passive income out of playing games be kind of a thing in the past? I mean, does that make more sense in a bull market or in a bear market? And when the heck are we going to get an actual game that competes with Red Dead Redemption 2 or competes with some of the other like major MOBA games out there, major titles like Battlefront and so forth. I want to hear more about it. So let me go ahead and bring Brandon on with no further ado. Hello, Brandon. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's a lovely day here. You are the lead data research analyst with Covalent, from what I understand, and I guess led the development of the research and the paper that went along with. Here, I'll go ahead and flash it up on screen because why not? I have the graphic. Understanding the metrics that matter for play to earn gaming. So great little cover, great little report. Tell me about it. How long were you working on the report, Brandon? As it happens, I've actually done some large format reports like that myself, and it takes, we just did kind of a survey thing. It was hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. So I can imagine. How long have you been working on that? And what's your schedule to update it? Like, is this a regular thing that you do, or when is the next one coming out?
Yeah, so you can, for any of the viewers, you can go see the book on our blog. You can still download the free ebook and check it out yourself. It took about 2 months or so, 3 months. We kind of started with an Axie Infinity post in November. You can actually go all the way back to that blog post as well. And that post got a lot of traction, a lot of questions, a lot of inquiries. And so we scaled that across all of the games on all of the chains that we support, or all the major games, I should say, on all the chains that we supported. So Covalent supports over 32 different blockchains, every transaction, every log event, everything. So we're privy to all this data, and we like to dig in and try to analyze it, try to make sense of it. So yeah, we started in November, published a report, a blog post that said, that was kind of the peak. That was like the height of Axie Infinity, at least before the December fall, which kind of tumbled everything. And right. In that blog post, we talked about the fact that only 5% of breeders were coming back month over month. So breeding retention was at an all-time low, which meant everybody was just selling into the market, not investing in breeding any new Axies, right? So that preceded the dump and the crash, and it's been kind of downhill since then in terms of token price. But the game has really picked up. So yeah.
That's interesting. We'll get back to talking about Axie Infinity specifically, but I have wondered about retention, because obviously the ability to earn through gaming has existed since people first started selling in-game currencies with games like World of Warcraft, which really I look at as being the spiritual predecessor to all crypto, essentially. So part of why I like to come back to talking about gaming is because it is the DNA of the average or the psychographic makeup of the average crypto user, crypto buyer, it dovetails in well with the serious gamer. In terms of what they're willing to do as users, how they're willing to invest their time and energy online, take on new processes and so forth, learn new systems in order to be able to earn and positively participate. Is that why you were focusing on P2E, or do you just see that as a huge growth area for crypto or for DeFi?
Yeah, it was just it was underserved at the time in terms of analytics, and there was a lot of money pouring in. A lot of VC rounds were going on. A lot of games were popping up. A lot of people were talking about it. Even in some countries, people were quitting their jobs and starting to play. So we really just wanted to dig in and see, what is the reach? How many people are playing? How big is it? How often are they interacting, and in what ways are they interacting? What is the retention like? Are they coming back daily? Are they coming back weekly? What does that look like? And how does that differ across the different games on the different chains? And then what is the revenue like? So revenue both for the developers and for the players and the guilds as well. Those three areas, what does that look like? So those numbers have changed a little bit since we put the book out in February, but the philosophy still holds. So the update wouldn't actually be overly difficult, because we just need to look, what is the reach now? How is the retention compared, and what's happened with revenue?
What's your overall sense about P2E then? At this point, we're still celebrating Axie Infinity as being the game or the project that has sort of cracked this this particular nut. What bothers me about Axie is that it seems to have succeeded as an NFT project. It seems to have succeeded as a community, but what about as an actual game?
Yeah, well, I think they basically took the approach that you have to start and build the economy first, and you can add some of the game elements later. And there's no sense. I'm not saying this is the right approach, but I think
Right.
they took the approach that there's no sense building a beautiful game with all the nice graphics and the fun gameplay and everything without having a functioning economy, right? So it was a litmus test to see what could be done. And I think overall it was successful, and that really paves the way for better games to come along. And I'm sure they're also developing better games themselves, right? So
Mhm.
you learn a lot through that first process, and you try to go with a minimum viable product that can go to market, attract, see what it can do. And it did. I'm sure it surpassed their wildest dreams, and then now they can build from there, right? So I'm sure it's coming. But it's not a question of, can people build awesome games, right? That's been answered. That can happen. Nobody doubts that. So
Well, but
the
it hasn't
question was
happened in
really,
blockchain, has it? I mean,
exactly,
that's the thing.
exactly. That's the thing, though, is that the part that hasn't happened is, can you build a sustainable gaming economy? So they're testing the one side first, and I'm sure now they'll go back and put the both together.
Isn't it a little sus that they're testing the economy side of it? I mean, couldn't I posit, like, wouldn't it make more sense if I was already running Fortnite, if I'm Epic Games and I've got, I just saw the stat the other day. It was like 20 million daily users, 40 million daily users. Couldn't I essentially take all of the mechanics that projects like Axie have worked out for me, create an NFT marketplace as Epic Game, slap that onto there, slap on the tokenomics, allow people to do some sort of passive earning, and then completely crush them, because I am already prepared to have this engaging game. I've got this environment. I've got 20 million people playing a day.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's the question there.
Well, like
They
what prevents the large players from coming in? Like, I get what you're saying about they want to work out the economy, figuring like, okay, there's time to create an engaging game later. Okay, I understand. According to your report, I'm not sure between what time periods, but you said there was something like $4 billion raised in GameFi overall. And another stat that I read not that long ago that I've quoted a few times on here is $1 billion went toward GameFi, I believe, in January in terms of actual investment.
Yep.
So I like to
Yep.
think that if someone had given me, well, even a fraction of $1 billion, really, even for just a couple million, guys, I'd give you a decent game by now. Like, I mean, I've been developing an MMO for 6 years. I get that it's a long slog, but like, where is the emphasis on the actual game? I get worried about when I see these games coming out that have no gameplay to show, but have all of the tokenomics worked out, different ways to stake. Obviously their first couple of NFT drops, everything that brings in money, but not necessarily gameplay. It makes me worried that we've got people who are taking it not from a developer point of view, but from but as another DeFi project essentially. And it feels like it loses something. It feels like GameFi loses a little bit when there's no fun gameplay. So
I think I would answer that by looking at look at the data, look at what's happened, right? Axie Infinity didn't force people to play this game. They didn't force people to join up. They were very transparent about what it is, and it was even free to join at relatively free to join at some places depending on how you join, right? So they didn't force people to join in. They didn't force it to get that big, and they also didn't force any of the current game developers like Epic Games or the like to not build their own, right?
Well,
so
of
just
course,
look at what's happened, and everybody was aware of what Axie Infinity was at the time, and it still took off in the way that it did, right? So I would just like I can only answer the question by looking at the data, and clearly it did have traction. There was at one point in time over 50% of all blockchain transactions were game transactions, right? So yeah, the games aren't there yet, but the traction is certainly significant, and that's a leading indicator in my opinion.
I thought that this was a pretty clever graphic. I hope you don't mind if we, because we didn't really discuss it ahead of time, but you talk us through this a little bit, because I thought that this was pretty good at summing up all the moving parts that are kind of going on with a GameFi project.
Yeah, so I mean, this is in the report basically just discussing the three areas where play to earn merges. So you've got DeFi, which took off in DeFi summer, NFTs shortly after that, and gaming has been around and evolving for decades, right? And you put all three of those things together, and namely, you take the gaming element that has pre-existed and you insert it into DeFi and NFTs, which has taken off in the blockchain space the last few years, and it opens up the ability to play games with an economy and integrate that into the DeFi ecosystem. So that's you basically saw that when Axie Infinity opened a DEX, and there was staking and farming on the DEX, which you could farm and stake tokens that you earned by playing the game. And then the NFTs were also worked in there as well. So now you've got, three major elements coming together all in play to earn. And I think that's long term, that puts a lot of weight behind it, and short term it's tough to coordinate. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk. You talked about the trajectory of the top 10 projects. I believe that Axie is number one, of course. Go ahead and tell us about how they closed out last year and what has happened to them subsequently. I thought your point about like when I was reading the report, they had pretty good retention month to month when it talked about people who were just kind of like staking and coming or participating, but then there were less people staking, and then there were less people in that breeding. And I wonder if that was somewhat telling in terms of their behavior. So let's circle back to that.
Yeah, so if you look at the Axie Infinity growth, the growth in new wallets was above 50% month over month, all the way from the launch of the Ronin chain in June up until December, basically up until the month of November, when they had 3.5 million new wallets in November alone, and then that just tanked in December, and they hit only 860,000 new wallets, right? So it just dropped off. Like that's a negative 75% growth in new players. And that translates down the line, right? If no new players are coming in, you'll also see a dip in new buyers, in sellers, in claimers, and everything. So in terms of folks that actually claimed, it also peaked in November at about 2.5 million. So 2.5 million wallets in the month of November claimed their tokens, and that dropped to 963,000 in December. So everything basically peaked in November and dropped off in December, and some things have started to rebound. And we might update the book in the coming months here with some of the new numbers since the game mechanics have changed and stuff like that. But basically, there was this massive explosive growth all the way up till November. And then it just kind of boiled over with excess sell pressure. And then people were, not so excited to play the game because they couldn't earn as much, right?
Right. I mean, and that kind of begs the question of like, although I'm a little bit contrarian in the way I originally phrased it, like it seems to me like we do not put the same filter on a DeFi game or GameFi game that we put on when just evaluating any old game. It's not just about fun, is it? It is somewhat about the potential for gain. And of course, the blush is somewhat off the rose now that we're in a bearish market, isn't it? I mean, if you're describing that the dip started in November, that sounds suspiciously like it correlates to exactly the same pattern that the whole market has had in terms of having a chilling effect on DeFi and on NFTs to a degree as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely correlation there, especially because, like I said before, 40 to 50% of these transactions in the month of November were from GameFi.
Right.
Not just Axie Infinity, but that's blockchain transactions as a whole. And so when you see the top blow off of the biggest game, uh, obviously things are going to fall, right? Across everywhere. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I know you haven't done the research, or at least like you haven't been updating yet. But I wonder how much the hacks associated with Axie are going to impact it as well.
So we've done some newer research since then on the post hack metrics, and it actually it created kind of an interest spike, a buzz, because
Hmm.
you saw the top blow off in December. The barrier to entry was significantly reduced, right? You could buy an NFT and start playing the game for a lot less in January or February when the hack was than you could in November. So it got a bunch of publicity from this hack, and people realized, oh, look, I could start playing this game. And they fixed the hack, whatever else. I don't think people were too concerned about it once they decided that they would cover the cost of it, and they laid out a very detailed plan to recovery. They did a very good job recovering from that. So it actually spiked a lot of the metrics. New users went up, claiming went up, everything across the board went up, and we're not talking like up to November levels, but it kind of curved in the right direction. So yeah,
Hmm.
it was very interesting to see, and you can find an article on the blog about that as well.
That's funny. Actually, I'll go ahead and here, everyone, go download the report. It is a good report. Let's go ahead and put it up there now. That's to download the Covalent report on GameFi. So you would spell that. We'll just stick with Axie since it's at the top of the top 10 that you studied, unless you think of any other examples. Actually, let's phrase it that way. Who is handling their tokenomics and the economics around the incentives around their GameFi project the best at this point, and who has innovated the best to keep up with the changing atmosphere, the bearish climate in 2022?
It's still early, so that's a tough question to answer with high confidence. But I mean, if you look at traction, and if you look at where people are going, and you trust the market in that sense, Axie is still right up there at the top. If you go Krabata on Avalanche, they've actually launched a subnet, right? And same with DeFi Kingdoms on Avalanche. They've got a subnet as well. So now they've got a whole chain to themselves, similar to Axie Infinity with Ronin, right? And it got to the point where Krabata was more than 40% of the transactions on Avalanche, right? So all of these games are kind of coming together and just dominating the block space. So they had to move to their own chains. That was the case with Axie Infinity in the Ethereum days, and why they made the Ronin chain. So I think in terms of projects that are going to last through this, games that are going to last through this bear market, it's definitely those that were able to pivot to a cheaper chain that will let users play the game, even when things are down. And they've also, all three of those projects have raised significant capital that'll pull them through the bear market, and they'll come out with a better game, no doubt. So I think the top three projects in terms of traction in the past bull run are definitely not worth sleeping on. So I don't think they're going anywhere, and I think they'll be back and better as this continues.
Right. I follow the yearly report. I'm trying to remember who comes out with it. The gaming industry report, and you see growth essentially in gaming that far exceeds like really all other major entertainment categories put together. And that's not blockchain gaming, that's just gaming overall. There's an enormous amount of money being poured into it. So it seems like a natural. It seems like the majority of blockchain projects would probably be well served to be gaming projects in some way or another. But what do GameFi projects need to understand in order to seize this opportunity? Is it a matter of getting the tokenomics right early? Like I saw in your report that Axie has already distributed, I think, 3.2 billion in rewards, which really kind of surprised me when I saw that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I don't have the perfect answer for it, but I can take a stab at it. And I think it's clear that the free-to-play element needs to be rethought. At least I don't want to say it needs to be eliminated, because then you get like a gentleman's club, basically, right? Everybody trading their supercars will be the same thing. Everybody trading their NFTs, right? And exclusive access to play this game. So you have to balance it and reduce that barrier to entry. But also, if you bring that barrier to entry all the way down to zero, then now you're looking at just getting farmed of all the rewards, right? You'll just get milked, and it'll all be done. So I think one of the biggest pieces is turning that knob and adjusting the barrier to entry to make sure that it's sustainable at all times. And it shouldn't be centrally planned, right? You should let the market do what the market does. That's my take. So watch the metrics, watch the breeding, and watch the correlation. And I think analytics is a really big part, right? That's one thing that everybody in the ecosystem has the ability to do with blockchain games, is see clear cut how the metrics are looking, how many people are breeding. You don't have to be inside Axie Infinity to see that information, right? So I think it's really important that everybody in the space, you take ownership of, if you're going to play the game for economic reasons rather than just play for fun, then do your due diligence, right? Look into these data points. It's all available at Covalent. You can just hit the free APIs and go for it there. So I think those are the biggest points. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. It seems like your attitude in talking about the actual gameplay versus establishing the economy around the game. Are we assuming therefore that people are enjoying these games in as much as people enjoy quarter slots, for example? with quarter slot machines to say that is like, quarter slot machine. If there was no monetary reward, some people might still pull the shift to see the bell, but probably not that many, and probably not in the same drove. So is it just that impulse for gain that people are pursuing? Because it seems like that's a lot that a lot is riding on that right now, these very incremental gains.
Yeah, I mean, I think that impulse for gain is always going to be there, and I think this bear market is a great opportunity for projects to emerge that try things the other way, right? That focus on gameplay first, and then try to introduce an economy. And I think the reason why there's been no startups really successful at doing that is because you can't get funding if you're going to say, look, I need to spend a bunch of years building a perfect game, and then I will build an economy. Because what are they going to say? They're going to say, well, why doesn't one of the existing game developers just do that? They already have these games. I don't have the answer to why they haven't done that or when they will do that. I don't have any inside information on that. I only know what's on chain, right? So I imagine they'll let this boil over a little bit longer, and then there will be some interest from the bigger developers, and that'll be when things really start to heat up.
What do you expect to see as the major shift in 2022? I mean, in the blockchain space, the Web3 space, 2 years of development is in epoch, essentially, isn't it? Like things like that's part of what my point is, by the way, when I poke some gentle fun at the game developers and blockchain space, is that my point is, like, I've been developing an MMO for 6 years that was really originally going to be out 2 years ago. I mean, that's okay. That's just the way it goes. So like at that point, if you try to get a blockchain audience to understand those kind of timelines, like you'll just straight up lose them.
Sorry about that.
All right, action. We've had an action sequence here on the show. No, that's okay. That's exciting. What shift do you expect to see this year in terms of either the maturation of actual user behavior, positively participating, or of the projects themselves being able to use the resources a little bit more smartly, so they're not giving away all the incentives up front to a degen crowd that gives them nothing back and doesn't care about the game, versus people like me who are just going to natter on about the fact that the gameplay sucks and the buy-in's really high. Because, like, as far as I know from Axie, I still need to buy at least 3 NFTs and drop like at least $900 just to have my basic starter Pokemon deck. So, what about lowering that point of entry? What do you think people are going to learn this year based on 2021? What is the trajectory of 2022 as far as you can see it halfway through the year?
So from what I've seen in the data the last few weeks, the players that started back in the early Axie days are actually still the players that are playing now. So you have this tight-knit group to pull from, and I think that's gonna carry forward, and that actually gives hope, I think, for the longer term. Is that, yeah, there was a bunch of people that came in, the game grew to massive heights, and then a lot of those people left, but that core group that was there beforehand, they're still there, and they're still contributing, and they're still playing, right? So I think that's gonna push the space forward, and that trend, the people that are still playing right now, which is more than in 2021, I think the people that are still playing now will still be playing the next time we fall off the cliff, if there is one, right? So I think growing that cohort and maintaining the same retention is going to be key, and the rest, it'll just continue to grow.
Is that the distinction that you're making then about the users who have stuck around long enough to actually do the breeding? Those are users who have gotten to the furthest point of positively participating. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's great. I look forward to seeing what else is going to happen this year in GameFi with Axie and anybody else who's going to come and compete. If you had to, what projects do you think stand a serious chance of being able to get in there? And
I think
do you think that you know, is Blizzard or EA or Epic going to come in and knock their socks off with an already established game that put some tokenomics around it?
it would be interesting if they did. They would have to figure out what chain they're going to go after, or build their own chain, or there's a lot of expertise that needs to go in there, and they have to figure all that stuff out still. So you should be able to see, it's not going to be a surprise when that happens. You'll see job postings start to pop up from these larger developers around blockchain needs, and that's when the race is on, right? So I think that's definitely something that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to just sleep on it forever. And do I think that the existing projects will be able to compete? They have a loyal user base, so I think so for the most part. They've got good retention in their original users, and I think they'll maintain that. So yeah, I think both. I'm interested to see which one wins out. I don't think they both can't win out. So yeah, I think the biggest projects are going to keep building. They have the resources to keep building. They have the user base to keep getting feedback from, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. No, I see what you mean. You know, it's interesting. Certainly in Web 2, you know, was painted very much as being the story of little innovators making a big splash in the space. With Web 3, you know, it seems to me like there's very much the chance that some established larger players can just come on and do the same thing that innovators have done, but at scale, and take away some of their heat, take away some of their hype, you know. So I'm kind of curious to see what'll happen this year, but hopefully it'll work out better for the investors and for the actual players. Why don't we take a minute to tell us a little bit about Covalent? You know, I understand that you got a forward from Polygon on this. You work with a number of different chains. Give us a 1-minute elevator pitch on what Covalent does.
Yeah, so Covalent index is about 33, might be 35 now. It's moving so fast. 33 different blockchains across the ecosystem. Everything from Avalanche, Polygon, Ethereum, Binance, all the big ones. And then we're also starting to get into subnets and supernets and the like, as these games and other projects start to move there. So we index every transaction, every event, everything that happens on these chains, and we serve it through a RESTful API, a unified API across all of these chains. So all you have to do if you want to get all of your transactions, say you're playing a game, you just take your wallet address, you put it into the API. It's a free API. You hit go, and it will give you all the transaction history that you have done, right? If you're doing taxes or whatever your reason is, right? Or
Right.
if you want to go and see and do some analytics on breeding on Axie Infinity. You go and you get the topic hash of the breeding, put that into the API, and you can get every single breeding event that's ever happened, and you can run whatever analytics you want with that. So that's the main premise. It's a unified API across 30 plus blockchains.
And this is freely available to users?
That's correct, yes.
So if you're doing your own research, folks, looking at the on-chain activity is a great place to start. You know, very interesting. I'll be interested to see what else you come out with this year. GameFi is certainly a hot space. What else are you guys studying this year?
Yeah, so we're focused on building products right now. So as always, so we're building actually a new research tool that will really help. It'll help in the GameFi space for sure, doing these analytics. So keep an eye out for that, and that'll enable a lot more research to come from there.
Is there anything else? Where should people go? You want them to go to your Twitter account to follow, to learn more? Go to the blog. I posted the link up on the side. Where would you have them go if you could have them take one action?
Yeah, I would go to Discord. Join the Discord server, and then you can always reach out if you're having any troubles, if you need help doing research, anything like that. We're always active and always happy to help in there.
I can't post the link of the Discord up here because I don't have it handy, but I assume that's available on your Twitter account.
Yeah, just on Twitter or on the website or whatever. Just type in covalenthq.com and the Discord server will be right there.
Right. Or if you're on Twitter, Covalent_HQ. Well,
Correct.
thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, Brandon. It's super interesting to learn more about this. Always great to refer to on-chain information when we are doing our research. So we will keep following the GameFi space, and I'll be interested in hearing what you have to say, 6 months or a year from now, see how things have changed. Because
Yeah,
I've
and
been
also
established a long time in the space.
feel free to DM me any questions that you have or things that you want to be included in the next report, right? Feedback on the current one, things you want included in the next one. Very open to that. So yeah, thank you for having me on here as well. It's been a great discussion.
And by the way, everyone, there's no sign up required for downloading, which I always appreciate when I'm downloading ebooks. So go take a look at it, check it out. If you're interested in GameFi, which frankly, even if you're not a gamer and you're just interested in DeFi, you should be checking it out. There's a lot of focus on there. There's a lot of, as Scott Melker, Wolf of All Streets, pointed out to me when he was on the show, you've got to look at where the investment money is still going. And a lot of money has still been pouring into Web3 and into GameFi. So keep an eye on that overall. Brandon, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care. Thanks, Brandon. All right, everyone, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming in and spending a little bit of time with us. We very much appreciate it. If you have any questions about GameFi, if there are other projects that you'd like me to refer to, I'm super easy to, well, frankly, just Google. You just Google me. But for that matter, look for me at @Sensible on Twitter. I answer my DMs. If you email me, I respond. I'm just, it's like that right now until I get overwhelmed anyway. So if we have any questions or other like GameFi projects you want me to check out, do a little bit more research in, that'd be fantastic. Always happy for the interactions. And thank you so much, Zinger people, for joining us again. Please like and subscribe. That always helps a little bit. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. We will see you on Monday. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Peace.